So we're in the Jasper room here, and anybody that's ever been to Jasper, the first thing that they notice when they are in the yard and they're looking sort of to the southeast is that there's a series of mountains there. And there's a part of a mountain that looks like a man's head lying down, and that's called the Old Man. And so that was a feature that you wanted on the layout, and we managed to accomplish that. So in reality, coming to the room here, we're looking to the southeast, which is kind of like the way the approach is going into Jasper.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about this Jasper room. It's quite something.
Well, Jasper is where I spent the first few years of my life. I was actually born in Edmonton, but Mom and Dad were living in Jasper. So until I was about 3, we actually lived in Jasper, in a small little house and in the back part of the town is where we lived.
So the trains, when they come into Jasper, they're in an elevated area above the valley and following along the hills, and it turns over a bridge and comes into town.
That's right.
What the Jasper Yard, I guess, is quite something to see.
Jasper is a terminal point for the subdivision between Edmonton to Jasper. So there'd definitely be a crew change there. There was maintenance yards there, and all the paraphernalia that goes with servicing the trains.
And I guess back in the day too, they would have helpers and extras to put on the trains to make sure they made it through the mountains. Okay.
Right. So east of Jasper, you could run with coal. But west of Jasper, coal was not allowed because of the sparks. They didn't want to set the national park afire.
Yeah.
So they didn't want the coal to run through, so they would have to switch to oil-fired steam, and then eventually diesels replaced them. So that was a major crew change, equipment change place, maintenance yard, fuel depot. That was all there for the railroad. But it was also a tourist town, as it is today. And at that time, it was not uncommon for passenger trains coming up from, or at least cars of passengers that came up from the States that were brought up and were delivered into Jasper and would have been parked on the coach track, which is this one that's right here just behind the freight here.
Yes. Now I see that there's a cardboard mock-up in the background of the actual Jasper station.
That is correct.
It's a very unique station, and it has a lot of different aspects to it, including the finish, or the fascia finish. Some of it's stone, and I guess some of it's plaster.
Yes, it's a stucco.
A stucco type of thing, and quite the roof and line. But it's quite a large building.
Yes, in scale, that's 3 feet.
So what's your goal there?
I want to build that station. I have the plans for the drawing for the station. As it turns out, the one-to-one dimensions taken off the scale drawings happens to be very, very close to 1/87 scale.
Wow.
So I can work right off the paper and just go directly. I don't have to translate it into HO scale dimensions and then rebuild it. Well. Okay. The station itself, I've got the drawings, and when I get a little further along here, I'll start the project of actually building it from scratch. It's going to have to be a scratch-built entity. I'll build it from the ridge of the ridge line of the building to the track.
As a flat, then.
Yeah, so it'll be a flat, so it'll be pushed right tight up against the wall. I need another 6 inches of space back there to actually do the whole building, but you don't see the back side of the building much from the perspective of here anyways.
I see also too that you have an interesting piece that I've seen in Jasper going by.
Jasper has a totem.
Yes.
At the time that the totems were dispersed throughout Canada, they got one. It's not the one that's represented there.
Yes.
It was the only thing I could find in Jasper. They didn't have a model of the one that was actually there. So I do have photos of the one that was actually there at the time.
This is the one that was made in China.
This one was, yeah, probably.
Probably. So they probably know what a totem looks like, but they've never been to Jasper to see what this one.
Which totem.
Yeah, and they all look the same, I guess, if you're not from that culture.
That's right.
Yeah. So in this is the other end of your railroad.
This is the other end, yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, the railroad runs from staging, Edmonton staging, to EDSON, to Hinton, to Jasper, to Vancouver staging.
Right.
And both the Edmonton and the Vancouver staging is physically in the same place in my layout.
Right.
So the layout is a point-to-point, but the staging area changes that.
Right.
On this wall is my staging area.
It looks like a shelf. Do you just pick your cars off and put them on the railroad?
No, it is a vertical elevator.
You gotta be kidding me. A vertical elevator. How did you ever, a new guy in the hobby, and you come up with something like this? Where did you find that?
I purchased this from a fellow in California.
Yes.
From Roll On, Roll Off is the name of the company.
Yeah.
The fellow who owns that company. He is well into his 80s. He designed this and sourced parts. A lot of the parts he sourced out of Vancouver.
Okay.
And then he puts the bits all together in a box and ships it to you for an exchange of money.
So what do you get in the box?
Well, what you get in the box is the parts, the fiberboard for the shelving and the backboarding, all the brackets. You get the rails.
So there's two rails that run up north-south on this then, and it runs up and down just on those rails?
Yeah, so there's actually 4 of them.
Okay,
there's 2 4-foot sections here that I've been ganged together.
Oh, so you put 2 of them together?
I put 2 of them together.
To make extra long trains?
8-foot one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you have a limit of an 8-foot train?
That's correct.
And when you want to slap a caboose on, you bring down the caboose track?
Well, I could do that. Or I could put half the train on one and the other half on the next one. There's a lot of flexibility. I could say this is Edmonton and this is Vancouver, or I could say this is cars.
Yes.
And when I put together a train to deploy onto the layout, I could then say, well, let me just do some switching in here and build up.
Physically speaking here, what we have is a couple of shells put together, in a way, that are connected to 4 bars that are on some sort of a wheeled system to allow it running up and down smoothly.
That's correct.
Now, to go along with that, obviously I heard a motor running.
That's correct.
And there must be some sort of indexing to make sure it lands right in the right spot.
Yes. So if we come up to this end of the elevator,
right,
you'll see at the bottom the motor that drives it, and there's 2 of them, one at each end and a shaft that connects them.
Yeah. Now with the kit where you buy just one section, do you still get both motors?
No.
Okay, so
one
you
section
got
gives
2.
You this. When I get the second section, you get this as well.
So you had to get everything to match up and run together.
I had to assemble it, yes.
Yeah, so those motors have to, everything has to be lined up.
That's right.
Yeah.
The shelving has to be vertical and horizontal.
Yes.
So it's a challenge to get it to do that. Right at the moment, you also have to adjust the tension on here to make sure that it stays even. And of course, as temperature and humidity goes around, those wires stretch. Just like on a piano, they got to be retuned every once in a while.
So what does it have? Sort of like a tuning peg on the cable, or how do you tune it?
There's an adjustment.
Oh, so you adjust the length?
Yeah, you just adjust the length and change the tension on the wire. And I found that if you pluck them, you can hear a note. So I use a piano tuner on my iPhone.
No, seriously.
I go down here and I pluck them and I adjust it till they're all the same note, and I know I'm getting close.
So what is your elevator tuned to? What key?
It varies. It varies.
As long as it's the same.
As long as they're all the same, yes.
Yeah.
So the elevator automatically stops.
Yeah.
There's limit switches in the back here that prevent it from going too high or too low. And then there's also a switch located in here where the detents in this rail and a ball bearing and then a micro switch in series provides the signal to interrupt the power and turn it off when it gets to the correct spot.
This is pretty sophisticated stuff.
It's pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, putting it together with the instructions.
The instructions were pretty clear. I had to read them over several times to really understand make sure that I understood it correctly.
Yeah.
There's a number of factors involved in here that you got to be careful of. These shelves are supported by brackets, but they're also screws coming in from behind. So it's all been precisely pre-drilled.
Yeah.
But when you put the screw in from behind, you've got to get it in square. If you don't, it'll break out through the material, because that's not very thick.
Not very thick at all.
Not very thick.
Yeah.
If I were to design one of these myself, I probably would start by looking at the mechanisms that are being used today in motorhomes to build the sliders.
Yes.
It's a little heavier, a little more robust.
Yeah.
I think that technology might lend itself to this better, but I haven't had a chance to research it yet or price it to see how competitive the idea might be.
Yeah.
But that's the direction I would look.
So you went this way, obviously, to create an ability to have a staging yard that has maximum space allotted for your trains without having to worry about things like ladders and
that's correct. Yeah.
Or say some kind of a selector system.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's flat against the wall.
And in terms of ladder space, taking away my storage.
And your storage really is out of the way.
It's out of the way.
It's just like a shelf you would find on a lot of railroads with your stuff in on a display.
It's a movable display.
Yeah.
And this yard, or staging area, is the tail of a Y.
Oh, okay.
So it's the tail side of a Y.
That you have right here.
Right here.
So you can reverse your
My
trains.
westbound track goes this way.
Yeah.
And my eastbound track goes that way.
Clever.
So that way I can take a train off the staging area, and I can deploy it in either direction.
Fantastic.
And the Y is closed, this track, which turns the point-to-point layout into a dog bone. With close at both ends. It also gives me the ability to turn stuff around at this end too.
So there was a dog bone on the other side. I knew there had to be. That allows you continuous running if you want, and just sit back and have a beer, or what we call up here the Canadian water tower, and watch your trains run, and talk to people and entertain them.
Right.
Another visible scene I see in the back, right over here. That is a must, I guess, if you're in the area of Jasper, or going west of Jasper. That's Mount Robson, I would take it.
That's correct.
So that's, did anybody notice that when they came to visit in the tour the other day? They say, oh, that's Mount Robson.
Actually, no.
Yeah, not enough people from this area in the
Not enough
west.
people recognize it. There's some that said that looks familiar,
Yeah.
but they couldn't name it. Some people gave it a different name.
No, that's all right though. That little place where you can step out of your car and have a picnic, it's right down here.
That's right.
And over here, that's, it's an interesting mountain formation, this one here. That is the end of a mountain formation that goes for hundreds of miles. So there's valleys on either side, and it just looks like a clump, but if you went to either side, it would stretch to the horizon.
That's right. Yeah.
And the lake in front of that as well. What's the name of that lake? Do you remember? Is it Yellowhead or Emerald or something like that?
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is that particular mountain range, for whatever reason, it has brown colors in it, and it's not gray.
Yes.
Yeah, so very, very interesting. And these little place markers are excellent, because I guess that shows you exactly what will be there, but then for operations as well,
that's right.
You know what facilities are where.
That's right.
So you are planning eventually to have an operational system here, and people coming and running trains.
I do. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Last Saturday, when we had the open house, it was the first time I had two people running trains at the same time on the layout. Mm-hmm. So I'm just getting to that point where I'm starting to test out the layout and find out, how tolerant is it to multiple traffic, and are things working as designed.
Well, I see little boxes over here too. I guess you're going to eventually go to a car cart system.
Yes, I am.
And then you'll be able to do your lifts and drops and build your trains on using cards.
Yes. What I chose to do with this one is the blue cards that you see in the bins right now represent the tracks that cars would be dropped or picked up at. So if a car comes in on the train and gets spotted somewhere, you can put the car card for that car behind the blue card on the left side, saying it's arrived there. The waybill says it's supposed to be there, then it can sit there until it's appropriately unloaded. And as the layout master, I would go pull the waybill out when I said it's time for it to move, and move it to the next bin, the bin beside it, which is now a car ready to go somewhere.
Yeah, so it's built on the concept of boxes set for outgoing and incoming sort of thing, and those that are staying.
That's right, so it's 2 instead of 3.
Yeah.
Like I've seen on some layouts. Tom layout, I think, had 3 bins. I have 2. And the intent is that if a car comes in and is spotted somewhere, but it's not where it's supposed to go yet, because the track is full, well, you just put the card in the out bin, and it's ready to be processed. So stuff coming in is being handled by the crews, and the stuff going out is ready for the train operators to pick up and move something.
Well, you've accomplished a lot in 7 years.
Thank you.
I think a very, very successful layout here. And this elevator is unique. I know that people that are subscribers will be really interested in it. You got to make it go up and down for me and lock in, because I'd like to see how, let's say we want to get 1026 lined up there, and that's near the top. So down it comes, and you hold it and it locks to the next level, then you do it again.
Yes.
Here it's lined up on the caboose track.
And if you look closely, it's not quite lined up right now. It's again because I have to adjust those wires.
Yes.
But if I keep the button closed in, it just keeps traveling right through.
Oh, okay. And I see the scenery emerges behind.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. And there you go, you're ready to depart.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, one of the things I did do was I left these ends floating.
Yes.
To make alignment a little easier. So
yeah.
Hoping leading trucks would just adjust, auto-adjust.
Pick it up, yeah.
Pick it up and auto-adjust it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there you go, you got a lake in behind and another yard there. That's amazing.
Right.
Well done, Ken. I really am enjoying myself. This is fun. So your switching system here is based on using what kind of motors? Tortoise underneath?
Motors, yeah.
And so it's a single push button, and it moves from one position to the other with the same button.
That's correct.
And the lights indicate where it's going.
That's correct.
Okay. Is it Arduino technology, or are you planning to do anything along that line, or it's just straight? Connecting through.
These are just red-green LEDs in parallel, in series with the coil of the tortoise.
Okay, so give us a push there and we'll see those lights change. There we go. Perfect. Nice system. Again, very, very nice finish on what you've done here.
My wife, Faye.
Hi, Faye.
Hi.
So Faye, this is quite an undertaking, and you've been involved with it to some extent.
Oh, a little bit. I get involved when he's trying to make decisions about his design.
Yes.
Yeah, we reviewed the layout and the run, but I don't operate the trains at all. I haven't got into that at all yet. But I have had a little bit of fun building some of the buildings.
Yes.
And just taking a little bit of time to put them together. It's
had you built buildings before, structures that have done artwork or anything like that?
No, I just followed instructions.
Oh.
And it worked.
Yes.
Ken just gave me the tip. He says, we'll paint all the wood first.
Yes.
It's pretty detailed little stuff, but yeah, we painted the wood first, and then I just followed page by page, the instructions and put them together.
Well, that's pretty good. So how did you approach that? Was that the first building you built? It looks like quite a sophisticated structure for
Actually, that's the most recent building I built.
Yeah.
The little hut here was...
one of the earlier ones?
Yeah. I guess I like art a little bit, and it was fun putting the shingles on and just making it look like an old hut. We haven't
installed it yet, or
installed it, and we haven't put any dirt on it or anything like
so
that.
Weathering
it's just
and that
some
kind
weathering,
of thing.
Yes. So.
That's interesting that you take such a strong interest. It's not everybody that does that. I'm really pleased. I guess there are a lot of spouses out there that maybe want to but aren't quite sure about how they should approach getting involved in the hobby.
Well, I wasn't too sure either, really. That Ken had all these kits and he wasn't making them, and I thought, well, I'll sit down. It was a snowy, wintry day, and I thought, well, give it a try and see how it goes together.
Well, you seem to have done a lot. You got plans for the future of doing more?
Oh, I want to build his copper mine over there in the corner.
So it has a spot over here that's just waiting.
That's the next project, I think.
And that is a fine scale structure type of thing made of wood that you're going to work with? That'll be fun, eh? You get to challenge yourself with a little bit more complex structure.
Yeah, and it's something different. It's a lot better than housework.
Does he run the vacuum while you're doing this?
We just take a break. And
it's
a nice winter thing to do.
Awesome. Well, that's tremendous. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I noticed as we were going in and out here, a plaque on the wall with a really nice CN logo right over a piece of track, and there's a dedication on it.
Yes. This is when my dad retired. He was given that plaque. Documents his 35 years of service with the CNR.
Yes. Yeah.
I had the opportunity to ride the cab with him on his last run.
Wow. So where did that run? What was the run from?
It went from Edmonton to EDSON.
Yeah.
Then there was about a 2-3 hour layover.
Yes.
And then came back into Edmonton. That was the final run itself. So.
Wow. And how many years he'd been plying the rails?
35 years.
35 years. Wow, that's a really wonderful keepsake right there. Absolutely fantastic.